Hey guys, welcome to the first ever episode on my new photography-based channel. I got my boy with me, the wife is gone, she's out seeing a comedian with the in-laws, and we're gonna do our first review today. I'm gonna be reviewing two cameras that have been out for a long time. There's a ton of reviews on the internet about them, but I have them today, so it's relevant to me, and they're centered around vlogging. One is the Panasonic LX10, and the other is the Canon G7x Mark II. For a long time I've been using the LX10 and I think it's a great camera, but there are a couple flaws. And the other camera is the Canon G7x Mark II, which I just picked up, and I picked it up for a couple reasons I'll explain as we go through this review. But my intent is not to go through specs or any of that kind of stuff too much. Just kind of put them on a tripod and show you guys in a real world example the audio, the focusing, the stabilization, and all that kind of stuff. I rigged up something for this whole test. I got a flash bracket here, and it's got both cameras on it. I'm going to put on a tripod and walk around with, and have both going at the same time so you guys can see from essentially the same point of view how both cameras look with the same settings, or similar settings anyways, and just give them a real world try. So I'm going to get these things going, and I want to put them through a couple different tests for you guys. Let's get it going. You ready, buddy? He wants down. All right, let's go. Alright, so I've got both cameras set up here. I look like a total doofus. My neighbors probably think I'm crazy. And for the first test, I'm doing a walking vlogging test. I got them both on a tripod right now with this big flash bracket. They're both kind of heavy. So stabilization is one of the things I want you guys to check out. The LX10 has stabilization. I'm going to do air quotes. Because when you use it, it crops in from 24 millimeters to 30 millimeters at its widest. And in reality, I don't think it works that good. That's my experience. However, the Canon G7x Mark II also has stabilization. It's done digitally, and I think it does a much better job of stabilizing. The second thing I want you guys to check out is the audio. Both of these are in-camera audio. I haven't done anything for in post to sync audio, and both of them have the micro wind jammers on top, so they should be okay for wind, but both of them have internal audio. I'll be flipping back and forth on the bottom of the screen. You'll be noted which one is doing audio at what time. Third thing, autofocus. So both of these are contrast-based autofocus, although I think Canon, in the end, has generally better autofocus in terms of staying locked in on something. Again, we'll find out here with this review, but in low light, my experience with the LX10 is that when it loses the contrast, it kind of goes on a crazy hunting spree, whereas the G7x Mark II kind of just stays where it is, which might be out of focus or in focus. Now, the camera settings for this test are on automatic mode, so basically this is the open it up, put the battery and SD card in, set it and forget it. I don't care what manual exposure mode. And this is kind of how the camera just compensates both with like a natural profile on its own by itself. So I'm gonna walk around the block here and try this out. And I don't know, let me guys know what you think. Image quality, blurry background, how's the camera prioritize aperture? I do have to say though, I have the aperture set the f1.4. That's one thing on these cameras. The LX10 has an aperture ring. Even though I have an automatic, it's at 1.4, so I don't know if it's prioritizing that aperture ring, or if the aperture ring becomes a dummy and it just does what it wants when the camera is in program automatic mode. The Canon, on the other hand, it's just on whatever the camera wants it to be on. And that's one thing I want to talk about. So these cameras have different setups. The LX10 allows you to put it in manual, aperture, or shutter priority, or automatic while recording video. The Canon either has full automatic or a full manual. The other thing is the LX10, when you're in full manual, lets you adjust shutter speed and aperture by using the dials in the front of the camera. The G7x Mark II, when you hit record, those settings are locked unless you tap on the screen to activate it and then want to move the dial. So it's kind of a two-step process, a little bit of pain in the butt there. But I guess both are manageable in camera during recording. Okay, one other thing I want to bring up before I move on to the next test is that the Canon does have a neutral density filter. I do have it on right now, so it should have a little bit more of a cinematic look. I think neutral density filters kind of have that kind of richer tone to it. The LX10 does not have a neutral density filter, so it's not going to have that same look. So for the next test, what I want to do is I want to put this camera down on the tripod, and I want to walk up to it and see how the autofocus adjusts to me and how quickly it does it. So we'll do that next. All right, walking up right now, see if the camera recognizes me. Crouch down, get my face in screen, and does it focus on my face Actually, the Canon has me. The LX does not. There it goes. The LX just grabbed me. And it's adjusting exposure. I think the metering is a little different on both of these right now. I think the Canon might be doing some kind of evaluative metering, whereas the LX is doing more of a spot metering. I'll have to change that. Let me change that and try this again. Okay, so I went and changed the exposure to evaluative, and I can see right now, looking at it, the LX looks like it's exposing better. I don't know if that's just because I have a high contrast scene here, but I'm going to walk away again. Both these have a face lock right now. I'm going to walk away, see what it does. I'm going to walk up to the camera, see how both these track my face, and how they do with focusing as I come in closer. Which one's doing a better job? I can see right now, maybe it's the color profile, the way the metering's done, but it looks like the LX has a better exposure on my face. The Canon is a little bit darker, and that might be because of the neutral density filter. I don't really know. Okay, that's a focusing test, and I guess kind of an exposure test too, right? Okay, so let me pick these up real quick and keep walking. Now, the one thing to notice on these, as I'm looking at them, and I can fix it, I think, with the color profile, but they definitely handle colors a lot differently. My son's not. So what I want to do now is I want to turn it and focus on something else and see how fast it snaps back to me. So I will turn it and let it focus on the house that's far away right here and snap it back to me. And now back to my face. How fast does it recover from that change in focus? Alright, not bad. They both seem to be picking my face up pretty good. Let's focus on my son's face. Now back to my face. See if it picks me up. With these two cameras, I'm kind of in the crosshairs right now. I'll tell you why I have both cameras. The LX10, I think, does an amazing job with that Leica lens on it in the f1.4 aperture. It's amazing. I think the colors look great. However, the autofocus hunting in the dark kind of pushed me away a little bit, and I'm not sure I'm actually away from it yet. And also the stabilization. At 24 millimeters with no stabilization on the LX10, it's pretty shaky when I walk and talk like this, although I do have a lot of weight on this, so maybe that's helped stabilize it. And at 30 millimeters with stabilization on, it wasn't much better, and I was losing field of view. So I bought the G7x Mark II, and the stabilization is so much better, and that's kind of what got me going. But with that being said, for my initial testing, it seems like the LX10 has a little bit better audio as opposed to the G7x Mark II. So I'm kind of doing this for me to kind of compare both side by side at the same time and see which one I like better. One other thing to note about these cameras is the aperture on the LX10 is 1.4 at the lowest, and on the G7x Mark II it's 1.8. They're both capable of blurry backgrounds to some extent for a point and shoot camera. With that being said, the LX10's blurry background is pretty significant. That 1.4 aperture makes a pretty big difference, and what's nice is that the LX10 has that big clicky ring on front, and so it makes it easy to change the aperture really quickly. Like I said, as where the G7x Mark II, you have to touch the screen and then turn the ring, and it's a little bit more fiddly, I guess, if I'm going to quote the everyday dad. If you don't know who he is, check him out. He does camera reviews all the time. One other thing to note is slow motion and overall resolution. The Canon is capable of only 1080 up to 60 frames a second. The LX10 is capable of 4K with a crop or slow-mo at 120 frames a second. Honestly, I don't need more than 60. I don't need more than 1080, so it's not a big deal to me, but if you're a 4K guy or a slow-mo guy, it's something to consider. Alright, so anyways, that concludes the vlogging test with these two cameras. What did you guys think? Audio, stabilization, focusing, colors, which can be changed in post. Overall, the same package, battery life is fine. Flip up screens, they kind of do the same thing. One more test before I go. In dark. So check this out, high contrast, dark area. Very hard for cameras to keep me. I can see the LX lost me, and the Canon still has a box around my face, but I'm not sure if it's focusing. So let me turn back around right here and see how they expose. Looks like they both picked it up pretty quick. One more time, like this, walking in. My son's getting impatient. back like this. Who picks me up? I guess since my son's complaining, we can do one more test. Two faces in the same frame. Oh, what's interesting is that it put a box around both faces in frame, so it recognizes both faces. It's prioritizing mine because I did. Yeah, because I did register my face with the camera, both cameras, so they both know to prioritize my face. And she went, "You want mama? Mama?" Alright guys, so that kind of concludes my vlogging test. Let me put these in the post-production and share some thoughts with you guys. See you in a little bit. Alright, we're back from our walk. I've had a chance to review both pieces of footage, and man, I'm kind of torn. Like, let me go through a couple different criterias. Autofocus. I think the Panasonic picked me up quicker. However, he wants down. Okay. I think the Panasonic picked me up quicker. And the lens I think is sharper, a little bit sharper. But I know from experience in the dark that thing hunts like a beast. I also know that the Canon, my son's playing the guitar. I also saw a couple times the Canon back focus when I wasn't center on the frame. Now, to the LX's advantage, the tripod was underneath the Panasonic, so it was more centered in my face just by natural holding it out. But it seemed like the Canon did lose me for a segment there where it back focused. My son's playing the guitar, he thinks he's funny. In terms of audio, I would say they're both okay. Maybe the Panasonic was slightly better. I wouldn't give a huge advantage there. You gotta put the micro windjammers on top, it makes a huge advantage. So I would say they're both acceptable for what we're doing there, no big deal. Stabilization. You guys couldn't see it there because I think the tripod and the flash bracket was so weighted that it absorbed all those micro jitters that I normally see in the Panasonic LX10. I can just tell you from experience off camera that the G7X does a much better job absorbing the micro jitters with the stabilization. You went down? Okay. Yeah, so the G7X does a much better job absorbing the micro jitters. That wasn't a good test because of, like I said, the flash bracket and the weight on the camera. So they both looked okay in that footage. In terms of the way it exposes, in the way it does high contrast situations, I felt like the LX did a little better prioritizing my face for exposure, except for the scene where there was sky in the background. I was looking down on the camera and there was sky in the background. The Canon, I think, did a slightly better job there, although it kind of had a hard time controlling the colors, whereas the Panasonic LX10 was focus breathing in the background. If you go back and watch that, you can see the LX10 is focus breathing in the background because it has such a white background that it doesn't know how to kind of keep the contrast. Next thing is ease of use. I gotta be honest, it's kind of a pain that the Canon does not allow you to pick shutter or aperture priority. If you don't want to use full manual, it's either full manual or fully automatic. And I think even the metering, unless I haven't figured it out yet, is fully locked in the G7X Mark II. So in the LX10, I can pick spot metering if I wanted to prioritize my face, if I'm in a high contrast situation, or I can pick evaluative or center weighted. I didn't see on the G7X Mark II how you can pick the metering mode for video. Of course, you can do it in camera, but not necessarily in video. Overall, in terms of the form factor, I would say the G7X wins there by quite a bit. You've got the exposure compensation dial on top, you got the ring in the back that moves around, you get the flip up screen but it also tilts back, but more importantly it's got a big rubber grip on the front. The LX10 is definitely slippery to hold on to, and that's been a problem. I've almost dropped it a few times. I saved it, thank goodness, but the form factor definitely goes to the G7X Mark II. Other than that, I guess I have to kind of sit down and weigh them out the two. I don't really know what I'm going to keep because they both do different things good. And at the end of the day, it might be the stability that ends up winning out because I don't think people like watching micro jittery footage. So maybe the G7X Mark II. I don't know. I have to decide. Help me decide, guys. Let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate you guys watching this. I appreciate you putting my son in the background. I'm alone. I'm watching the kid today. I don't want a chance I had to do this video, so got that wild man back there running around. And appreciate you guys watching. If you guys are new to this channel, I'm sure you are because this is my first video, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I encourage you guys to engage with me. I love talking with people that watch my stuff. So again, I appreciate you guys being there, and I will see you he's going crazy. And I will see you guys